This light right here sucks. This light is supposed to have been fixed a long time ago. It broke. This light broke earlier last year. It doesn't work. And so I have to use a lamp as a light source instead of a regular light. I just did something that I have not done in a very long time. Now you're going to have to forgive me, is that I finished this book like yesterday or the day before. Decent book, breaking down why religion is bad. You're gonna have to bear with me here as I do the I was gonna say mental gymnastics of trying to put a DVD in this machine, but I think this might qualify as just actual gymnastics, because I'm having to stretch my arms and all this. See, this is one of the old PS2 discs. This is back when they put stuff on CDs when the console was first coming out instead of DVDs, because DVDs were too expensive, and so there's this purple tint on the back of the disc. Yeah, I made a DVD. This is the first time I've made a DVD in a very, very long time. Since like 2017 basically. I want to see if this actually works. This is just a test. A test you're going to have to view through the lens of of all of these books that I own. I wonder if it'll actually work. Will it? Let's see. Yeah, wow. Well, it's actually working. Holy shit. Okay. Play. Ha! It actually works. Let me just move this copy of Brave New World and Taipei by Tal Lin. It works, yeah. Yeah, it really does work. This is hilarious. Is this piracy? I guess this kind of counts as piracy. You can't properly see the video. Yeah, this is what I'm doing with my time now. I want to just burn everything to DVD. DVDs are so cheap. I could just burn literally everything to DVD. Why don't I just do that? Why don't I just burn every single film in existence to DVD? DVD was the greatest format that ever existed outside of VHS, and you're never going to be able to convince me of anything otherwise. Yeah, this is what I choose to do with my time now. I used to love burning stuff to DVD. It's just sort of a superfluous thing now because everything is digital. You can put everything on a hard drive, but here I am.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Complicated
And sometimes it's annoying when I want more light in here when I'm trying to do something. So what I'm thinking of doing is stringing Christmas lights up around the paneling in my room, which I think will provide a decent enough alternative to what I currently have, but until then, this is what I'm working with. So you may be wondering, Star, if you have a PlayStation 2 Slim hooked up to the monitor over here, which is now currently being covered by books, why would you ever need a second PlayStation 2 hooked up? I mean, seemingly DVD discs don't work on that one, so that's why you have that other one over there, right? Right? Well, apparently, after hooking this up, I've discovered the fact that PS1 games are entirely functional on this system. The other system seems to work with everything as long as the discs aren't sufficiently scratched. But for whatever reason, the DVD component of this system has completely blanked off the face of the earth and does not work no matter what you throw at it. But the CD function that would read PS1 discs works. You know, I hear with fat PS2s, usually it's the opposite. Usually what happens is you get DVD games, they continue working, and then CD games stop working, that it's the CD drive that breaks down first. But in my case, it seems to work fine. And also, because I currently don't have a bookshelf, which is something that I need to be getting towards, I am not able to actually play my console because I have all of my books here, and I don't want to put my books up here, which is where I've put them for the last long while. I just put them up here, and there was always a great chance of them falling because there's just not enough room there. So my desk ended up having to be the place where I put them. What time is it? It's 6:30. It's 6:30 a.m. right now. We've got the light in the sky is dim and it's raining a bit. This is like the perfect weather to me, the most comfy state that we could possibly be in. I absolutely love it when the weather gets like this. This is by far my most preferred state in terms of weather, in terms of how things feel and look. So it's kind of a comfy day today. Even though I'm dealing with being tired from not getting sleep, I can just look out the window and see the beauty of the weather. I mean, sometimes I look out this window and I just see it raining and I go, wow. No, like, living is really bad, like, all the time, but if I can have little solitary moments where I'm looking out at the rain and hearing just the sound of it outside of my window, looking at it, seeing how beautiful it is, like, it's little moments like that that I wouldn't say make all of this worth it, but they certainly make it easier. And I don't know. I know I have a lot of these videos where I say I'm happy I'm still here, but I think they kind of stand in opposition to the videos where I'm not saying that. Because I like emphasizing the positives and negatives, so I can present a balanced picture. But there really are things that if you find what's enjoyable for you, things that are meaningful for you, if you can derive meaning from something, then there really are things out there that can make this whole experience more bearable. Of course, that isn't for everybody. Some people, they're just incapable of enjoying most things, and so they have to seek kind of more creative ways of deriving enjoyment from life. But I don't know. It's something as simple as this. It's amazing how profound it can be and how it makes you feel. But I was thinking about how, like with my daily reading that I've been doing, how I need to constantly be feeling like I'm getting better at something, or like I'm improving on something. If I'm to feel like I'm making progress in something, or else I will literally go insane. Like if I'm not feeling like I'm retaining information, learning new things, and changing on some level, like being a different person each day on some level, I will just go insane. I will stagnation and convenience, those things make me suicidal, like genuinely suicidal. So I need to have a constant sense of movement, that I'm learning new things or that I'm progressing in something. I mean, when it comes to playing games, if you're playing a game, you're progressing in a video game, and so that's kind of life fuel in a way. But it's not substantial enough to like um, fully like give meaning to your life, whereas it's kind of a band-aid on the issue. It helps. And in my case, when I play video games, I'm not just playing them for the enjoyment of the individual game. I'm playing them as a comparison to all video games, as like I'm I'm playing this almost as a project where I want to compare this to the existing games on the system that I know of, or in the genre or of the time period, and I want to understand the history behind this and what it means in relation to other games that are in that strata. I find that really, really interesting. I've always been obsessed with reading over the history of video games and history in general because I'm just a big history person. I've always have been. Um, so, like when I play games, it's enjoyable for the individual experience of playing the game because it's fun, but it's also about, even if it's like a really bad game, it's about what does this mean in the grand scheme of things? What does this mean in the overall narrative of video games as a medium, etc. Um, those are thoughts that go through my head with everything. I'm constantly making these comparisons between strings of information. I can't unsee the comparisons. They're always there. And so like I feel like as a hobby that I really deeply care about, that on some level, by experiencing all of these video games and by researching them as I'm doing so, I'm I'm getting a broader knowledge of that section of art in general. But that's not my main focus the way that it used to be when I was younger and I was just obsessively reading and consuming as much information about games as possible. That was, like before I was even 10 years old, I started doing that obsessively online. Um, and when I was about 8, that was like when I got my Nintendo 64 and everything, and I started collecting and whatnot. I've always had these obsessive interests where I need to feel like I'm progressing on my interests on some level. But with the books and with learning stuff, knowledge, etc., it feels much more concrete. Like not just in terms of like reading and stuff is like socially accepted as like the quote unquote intellectual thing to do. It also like it's improving your life in a way. Like reading about psychology, history, politics, these are things that can further develop your understanding of the world around you. And like I've learned so much just from reading. Like it's amazing how much it's improved my life. I think it reduces depression as well because I found myself being like significantly, I mean significantly less depressed the more that I read every single day. And so there's got to be a correlation there somewhere. Now, basically, I'm the type of person who sees stagnation as death. I cannot stagnate. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so against the idea of having a job or going to school is because when I was in school, it didn't feel like I was really progressing on anything. It, I felt alienated from the environment and from other people because like learning stuff wasn't really gamified. It didn't feel like I was focusing on stuff that I really cared about. But when I started going off on my own and just like reading stuff at home, I started to learn that a lot of stuff that's taught in school is really interesting. It's just that the way that it's taught in school makes you hate it. Like biology, for example, is fascinating. I love biology. I think biology is an amazing field. But I never would have thought that in school because the way they teach it in school is boring. It's almost like a bunch of people got into a room together and they decided how can we make some of the most fascinating things on earth as boring as humanly possible. That's what school is. And so I didn't do the best when I was in there because I just I didn't want any part of it. I didn't want to be there or pay attention. And it kind of made me lose hope for the idea of learning new things. But when I started getting on the internet and watching lectures and and reading ebooks and going to the library and stuff, I started learning biology is really cool. Like read The Origin of Species, read Stephen Gould's work, read Richard Dawkins. It's really interesting stuff, but the way it's taught in school is not interesting. And so yeah, like being in school, it felt like I didn't have a sense of progression. Like I wasn't improving every day at something. Ironically, when I was in fifth and sixth grade, I got really obsessed with doing accelerated math, which sounds weird, right? Because I'm a bit dyscalculic. I'm not too good with numbers. Numbers generally, that's just not something I'm geared towards. I'm much more geared towards abstract thinking and art than I am numbers. But I was obsessed with doing accelerated math when I was in school. And I had no idea why, because I was thinking like I hate doing math, and it's the worst thing. But I got to the point where I did so much accelerated math, like way more than you were supposed to do, that like my grade level in AM was higher than the actual grade that I was in. Like I was above the grade I was supposed to be in because I just did so much of it. Where I literally got made fun of by other kids who were in my class, or I got somewhat ostracized where um, we would have to sit in tables that were with other people sometimes. Like they would force us to sit at tables with other people like in the morning, and I would always just be doing AM during downtime. I would refuse to talk to anyone. They would try to talk to me, and I would just say no. And like this one guy, I remember he said, "Why do you always want to do AM? Why are you always doing AM?" And I just didn't have an answer for him. I liked getting more points because it was like leveling up in a video game. You know, your grade got better and you got more points on your card. The more of it that you did, and so I just did so much of it every single day when I got home, when I was at school, that I ended up having a higher grade than I was actually supposed to be in for that year because it felt like a game as I was doing it. Um, and so that sense of progression underpins a lot of my motivations for why I do things. And yeah, as school went on, it felt like the way things were taught were just like I had a larger and larger disconnect with how it was taught. Um, but yeah, basically self-study is best study. I try really hard to have faith in humanity and have the faith that I'm not being manipulated, and this faith only comes from the general idea that humans are good, that humans do good stuff and intend to do good stuff, and that culture tells us not to lie. That's the only place where my optimism, oftentimes, for humanity even comes from, because every time I speak to someone, literally every time I speak to someone, I always feel that I'm being lied to. I always feel that they've come up with some conniving scheme to logic and find their way through each thing that they're saying, that they've researched about all these different topics, and that they're just constantly planning around the conversation to acquire some desired result. And that's just how I see people, like, all the time. Every single time I talk to someone, I believe that they're trying to manipulate me in some way, that they're trying to manipulate the situation in some way, that even the little things that they would do, that analytical people would pick up on personality-wise, they put effort into those things. That, like, everything that they do, they would just put arduous effort into making it seem believable, but at the end of the day wouldn't be true. Don't know why I see people this way. I think maybe it's because I've done similar things in the past, but even then, like, it's not, I didn't do it that badly, and it wasn't a common thing to do. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been hurt by people so much that I just assume all of them are going to try and hurt me in some capacity. I have no idea. Maybe I've just been manipulated so many times that I assume, because I've had some really bad experiences with people, so maybe that's the reason why I will often wonder if people are going to do these things or if they are this way. I have no idea. It just confuses me so much, and I want to believe that people are genuine, and so I try really hard to put out that image, but it's always a lingering thought in the back of my mind that they aren't, and no one wants you to believe that they're not telling the truth, because it feels like you're targeting them. And I don't mean to do that. It feels wrong to have assumptions like that, but I just do, and I don't know. It's hard not to always see people as manipulative and bit psycho. So I don't know. It's a mess. My heart's been beating kind of fast and hard today. Not as bad as it could be, but it's been doing its thing, as per usual. Something I realized I should have been doing this whole time, that I was really kind of flabbergasted that I hadn't been doing this whole time when I've released these last two videos on the main channel, was that I haven't been combining the audio tracks for my videos. This entire time that I've been using this phone to record videos, I have not been combining the audio tracks, because for some ungodly reason this phone records two separate tracks, one in the left ear and then one in the right ear. And in order to hear the full breadth of what's being recorded, you have to have the ability to hear in both ears. The problem with that is not only does it sound bad audio-wise, if one of your ears is broken in your headphones, you're not going to be able to hear the video correctly. And the fact that I hadn't addressed this in all this time is fucking insane to me, because I only just now noticed it looking at the audio tracks and listening to them in my headphones, because whenever I heard them in my headphones as opposed to just on a speaker, I always thought the audio, or I didn't always think this, but I noticed that the audio sounded worse, and maybe I'm just more perceptive to these things now. I don't know how I was that oblivious. How did I not notice that? That's like literally cognitively impaired retard level of misunderstanding you have to be on to not notice something like that for this long, you know? Hello everyone. I've been awake for almost a day now, since 10 a.m. No, I go to sleep at 10 a.m. What am I talking about? No, I've been going to sleep at 10 a.m. every day, and I just hadn't been able to sleep today. It's almost 5, yeah, almost 5 a.m. now. Or no, it is 5 a.m. now. What am I saying? See, this is disorganized thinking that comes from not having sleep. And I just haven't been able to sleep. And I probably won't be able to sleep for a while because I don't even feel remotely tired. The one, I guess, benefit to being awake this long is that seemingly I've been able to make myself focus on reading despite being incredibly tired. I don't know how I developed this capability. I guess I just practiced enough at reading in general when I'm not dead tired that I'm now so used to it that I can be at the brink of exhaustion, past the brink of exhaustion, and still be able to get my reading done and remember what I read and be able to interpret it. I have to read over back a couple times, but I have the attention span for it, and I have the ability to do it. But that wasn't always the case. Like, I used to not like reading when I was really tired because I saw it as something that I would just be incapable of doing because of not being able to focus when I'm that sleepy. When you're sleepy, your mental faculties are not operating at 100%. They're not operating at a large percentage at all. Like, you're starting to check out because your brain doesn't have enough energy. So, it's strange to me that I guess through sheer habit or practice, I've now been able to do this thing that I was not able to do for like a long time. But yeah, I haven't been able to sleep. And it was a deeply uncomfortable thing for me at first because my heart was racing. And that wasn't fun, but I wasn't able to sleep, and there was no reason for it. There was nothing that I was stressed out about or that was bothering me. I just couldn't sleep. And I mean, if you've been on this channel for long enough, you know that no matter what my diet is, no matter how much exercise I've seemingly been able to get, however consistently, I've still had this consistent problem of insomnia. My psychiatrist says that my brain just works different, that I have some kind of imbalance that's keeping me from being able to sleep the way that normal people do. Maybe I'm just more stimulated than normal people are. I have no idea. But I do know that this sleeping problem that's been ever present throughout my life, leading to stuff like me being awake for 4 days straight when I was in middle school, which was just insane. Um, and going many, many days when I was younger with only a few hours of sleep. Um, like, you've seen me on this channel having so many arcs where I'm awake for a couple days just filming live streams in order to tire myself out. I've done that so many times. And so the idea of not operating at 100%, like, it's just kind of normal at this point. And I'm able to do it decently well. And it's weird. It's very weird. Like, there doesn't seem to be a solution in sight to this issue because every sleeping medicine that they've given me has always ended up building tolerance and then not working, or having side effects that were so disastrous that I'd rather just avoid the medicines entirely. Um, so it's something I have to deal with. Like I said, diet and exercise don't seem to be things that help with the issue. So I'm left to dealing with the issue on my own. Now, being awake for 4 days or other things, other lengths of time that are possibly life-threatening like that is not something I've done for a while, or if I did, it was like once, you know? It was so rare that it was like a blip in my memory, almost like it didn't happen. Um, and so there shouldn't be any worry there. But when considering how physically uncomfortable it can be at this point to be awake for a day, 2 days, a day and a half, I would rather the problem not exist, because it didn't used to always be this physically uncomfortable. Like, right now I'm doing relatively well. It's probably the beta blockers I take, atenolol, keeping my heart, regulated, keeping my heart from going nuts as all of this is going on. So maybe I just feel more stable in this situation than another person would, or that I would at this specific point in time, in terms of like heart stuff. But then again, I don't know how sensitive other people are in their heart to not having sleep. For me, I'm incredibly sensitive to it. Like, I get palpitations and stuff when I haven't had enough sleep. My blood pressure goes up. So, uh, so yeah, like, it's very physically uncomfortable for me. But that was not always the case. Like, when I was younger, I could just blaze through being awake for multiple days and have very little physical symptoms that annoyed me or bothered me enough to complain about them. It wasn't not uncomfortable, of course it was uncomfortable, but it didn't bother me the way that it does now, where it feels like my tolerance towards the pain of being awake for too long is much, much lower than it used to be, and the feelings have intensified for a much shorter span of time. And I think that's just a product of getting old. Like, it feels like my body is kind of deteriorating at this point, which is weird given how young I am. I'm 18 years old, but my vision, for example, I did not used to have to wear my glasses for a lot of things. Now I have to wear my glasses for a lot of things, especially if I'm trying to look at something in detail. It's kind of dramatic how when I put my glasses on and when I take them off, how different the world looks. And I got them, years and years ago, that I was told I needed glasses, but I just never wore them because my vision was relatively fine. I could get on fine throughout life without, noticing a significant difference. But now, as I've gotten older, I'm witnessing my vision rapidly deteriorate. And it feels similar about my body. Like, it feels like I'm noticing all of these aches and pains and, like, my reaction to pain has changed and whatnot, and I don't know, it feels like I'm just deteriorating at every level. Um, but I want to tie all of this into something that I've been thinking about recently, where I feel like I just deeply hate norepinephrine, like the chemical norepinephrine that's induced by stimulants as well as other things. I always have a very uncomfortable and negative reaction to it. It was not always this way. A few years ago, I could have something that stimulated me in the with norepinephrine prescribed by my doctor at the time, and I had no uncomfortable side effects. Now, if I'm stimulated by anything with no norepinephrine, I get incredibly anxious, or I get incredibly uncomfortable in my chest, or just generally my body feels really worn out. I feel sick, like I feel physically ill when I have like even a little no norepinephrine like induced into my system. And so generally I try to avoid everything that I can that induces that. Where like even just drinking coffee can give me heart palpitations, you know? Um, and so I consider no norepinephrine to be like a deeply like evil thing, like within the context of my own life, just because everything that's related to it seems to just make me feel really uncomfortable and worn out, um, uh, dramatically so at times, where for other people that would definitely not be the case. Um, and so I don't know, I feel like an old person a lot of the time. Like when I'm describing so many things about my physical health, like the fact that I've gotten kidney stones and stuff when I was 17 years old, that's a bizarre problem. I mean, I was born with tachycardia, which I got removed from ablation. Was the ablation that was done um, when I was younger ended up making it to where they told me my actual like heart functionally was actually better than normal people. But before that point, I was always told by my parents that there's a constant risk of me going into tachycardia, so I couldn't physically like move around a whole bunch as a kid and exert myself because there was always that fear that I would go into tachycardia and there'd be a grave issue with my heart. The reason for this was because when I was in the womb, when I was in my mother's stomach, I continually kicked her stomach over and over and over again, and I had uh, attempted to hang myself with the umbilical cord that was in the stomach. Obviously not intentionally because babies can't have intent like that; they're not conscious. But I was jumping and moving around so much that the doctors thought I was going to choke myself with the umbilical cord because the screenings that they did showed that I was way too active and if I hadn't been removed early, I was going to mess something up, basically. I could have died. Um, and so they had to remove me early from the womb. And as a result of this, I had to, when I was like 1 years old, or like not even that, they had to do some kind of surgery related to my heart, related to tachycardia, as I was diagnosed with it fairly quickly. If all of the information is tracking here from my memory. Um, and so I don't know what surgery or what operation they did when I was a baby, but I know they did one in relation to the tachycardia. It wasn't until I was like 10 that I ended up getting the ablation where they burned the heart valve. They burned the ineffective heart valve like off, and it made it to where my body was perfectly fine. And in my groin, there were like stitches or whatever, so it was like difficult to walk around because they had to like open up my groin for the ablation surgery, um, which was weird. They also had to stop my heart. Like during ablation, they literally had to manually stop my heart, um, and so yeah, I don't have tachycardia anymore, but I think I have a certain anxiety about my heart, and I feel it more intensely than other people, forming a kind of health anxiety and an anxiety about my health and my heart, because I was told over and over and over again as a kid, you can't be too active. You have to worry about going into tachycardia, and that was part of why I stayed in the house so much back then. Um, but of course, this ultimately led to the person you see today who never wants to leave the house because when you're given conditions like that and you stick with them, you're able to cope with that environment, and that you find that you prefer it, there's not much of a chance of going back from that. It seems like I only become more isolated over time, not less. Um, so, well, that's not entirely true, because when I was a kid, obviously I didn't have internet friends or whatever, but you get the general sense of what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, basically, the human body is the worst thing ever conceived, and I would prefer a world in which the human body was destroyed, as well as the human race. I found the way I figured out how to fix this problem was in Sony Vegas. If you right click a clip, there's a thing that says channels, and it'll have you can isolate the audio to the left or right channel, or you can combine you can combine it to evenly distribute the audio to both ears, to where it's even, to where it sounds correct. And I'm doing that with every clip that I record now, but I wasn't doing that before. And I'm I think when I take like more of these secret star videos, and if I take these secret star videos and put them on the main channel, I think that'll be something good to have in post now that I've just figured that out, because I can download the clips from YouTube and then fix them in editing for the audio and then put them there. Um, but I don't really know which clips I would want to put on the main channel, because for one, I would have to significantly edit them. Like the stuff I put here is literally just so I remember things. There's really no point in it being watched. That's never been the point of this channel. But people somehow found the channel. I don't know how people keep finding it. For the last several weeks, I've been having immense trouble sleeping in my room. I just haven't been able to. If I lay down in my bed for too long at nighttime, my heart starts beating very fast. I get anxiety. It's like I'm physically unable to sleep there. I can't stay in there for too long either. Without feeling anxious or sick somehow. The last several weeks I just haven't been able to sleep in my room. So I've been sleeping here on the couch. And to be honest, at this rate, I don't really see myself sleeping in that room again. I just can't see myself sleeping anywhere else. But in a way, it's been nice, because I've been watching a lot more movies and TV. Because Netflix is on the PS3 out here in the living room, and then I have my computer and my laptop. I can just torrent anything, or go to some streaming site and have everything there immediately. It's okay, Bert. I I feel like, it's okay. I feel like I'm kind of letting myself go at this point. Like, I used to spend all my time in my room. That was the only place I wanted to be. And now it's like I'm physically unable to stay in there for too long without getting completely overtaken by stress. I'm hoping to come out with something really good for the main channel soon. I'm trying to take my time on those videos now. Got about 5 hours of sleep last night because, in my room I can control the environment more easily. Out here I have to run on everybody else's clock. So I can't as easily choose when I'm going to sleep or when I'm not. I feel retarded today. When I recorded that explaining the joke video, I forgot to talk about some of my thoughts on perception, or acknowledging other people's perception of you through exaggerating your own demeanor. I wanted to analyze that concept a bit more. I didn't have the energy to make that video. When I edited it, I had to cut out me repeating the same sentences a bunch of times, and I had to cut out me stuttering a bunch of times, me saying a bunch of times. This sounded retarded. I didn't get much sleep last night, like 6 hours about. Normally I can go okay with 6 hours, but I feel really, really tired today. It's like, when I go in my room, it feels like I'm in an alien world. Like I'm somewhere where I don't really belong. I feel alienated by my environment. Being out here is the only way that I can get to sleep anymore. So I've kind of made the couch my home at this point. There is virtually no one here. Like, I've been walking around this town here at, it's almost 2 a.m. and there's literally no one here. Like, I'm not complaining, but this is a different kind of vibe for me. I'm used to, even Hopkinsville, Kentucky, I'm used to, being more popping and lively around these hours. Crazy. Absolutely nuts. So if I take a bunch of the Secret Star videos and then compile them into one big video, perhaps with other clips or something, and edit them down into something that's more watchable, I would definitely have to fix the audio in them. That's something I'm going to have to remember. I mean, now I can just recognize it just from looking at the audio file. I know what it looks like when the tracks are separated, so that's good. Let's see what else it is. 2:57 a.m. on June 19th, Friday, June 19th. I've been incredibly depressed today. Not really different from my mood any other day. I'm incredibly depressed every day, so, I mean, it's not really a significant thing to report, but, yeah. Let's see. I think the last time I thought about killing myself was 4 days ago, I want to say. Might have been 5. I'm losing track of time. That's the thing, is that it could have been 2 days ago, and I literally would not know. All of the days kind of blend into one another, but I think that's a decent amount of time to not be having suicidal thoughts. Like, I'm generally I feel like, sometimes I feel like all of this business in the discourse today, what people are commonly talking about, is like a deliberate mind poison. It feels like when we start talking about the baby formula shortage or the gas prices or any one of these like random front page of Reddit talking points, we're basically just engaging with a narrative that is there to replicate itself. We're repeating things that are made to be repeated. Why else would they be so simple and snappy and easy to repeat? It's because they were built to do that. And I feel like by mentioning these commonly understood talking points, we're basically poisoning our own brain. Like, they exist in order to dumb down the conversation as a whole. It's not that some of these issues aren't pertinent, they are, but I think through talking about them in the way that we do, we're basically selling the subjects short. Like, whatever subject they relate to, we're not doing it justice by only talking about it in these snappy sort of ways. And if we went into it more in depth, we could give the subject more respect. But we don't really, because it's like, what's the motivation to do that exactly? Like, why? There's a certain set of virtue signals you can use to show your status as a person. Talking points that, if in quick succession from one another you use, people are going to think you're of a certain ilk. And that's really all it is. It's not that there isn't some truth in it. There is, but eventually you hear it so many times and it's just kind of funny to hear. Like, you hear it so many times that eventually it just becomes kind of stale.
Not like I'm moving towards something, because if you feel like you're moving towards something, quote unquote, it's always going to be disappointing. You know, like, hope is an inherently negative emotion, because hope always arises from negative circumstances. You know, like, you feel so bad that you need to feel like you're getting to something better. And so there's no reason to have hope without a negative feeling being there. And I found that when I'm sort of longing for hope, or when I'm longing for things to be different, that tends to be the moments where I think about suicide the most. It's only when I kind of take a step back and I start thinking of things in terms of, like, you know, what if nothing changed? You know, what if everything was the same for all of the rest of time? What would I look forward to then? Well, obviously, nothing can stay exactly the same. But it's a little bit naive to be opining for a future that doesn't exist, or that you have, you know, no ability to properly conceive of. I think it's better to hope for realistic things, or again, to not hope for them, but to recognize that they're going to come into being. You know, like, if I'm really if I'm if I'm really into, I don't know, traveling or something, I want to go to all of the places. It isn't as if I'm going to put my entire self-worth and ability to be alive on when I'll get to travel, because if I did that, the experience would just end up being disappointing, because I would be placing so much worth on it. It's more like, you know, I feel terrible now, and I'm probably going to feel terrible for the rest of my life, but that's not so bad, because at least I can perceive that, you know? At least that's something that I understand to be the case. And I think, you know, once you surrender to that, and once you recognize that, like, there are things that you can do, that you do enjoy, um, you're just gonna focus on those things. You know, like I keep trying to say that life is like neutral. That life is just this neutral thing that you get out of it what you put in and whatnot. I'm starting to realize like the only reason I'm able to say that is because I've just accepted that I'm going to be depressed. Like this is what's hard to communicate to people is that it feels like the moments where I feel the worst is when I'm hanging on to some kind of hope. Now there were messages on Discord I sent. I need to find them so I can more accurately portray what I'm trying to say, but um like there was advice. Oh fuck it, I don't have the energy for this. And basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm alright and I'm doing alright. It's just it's I don't understand what the big deal is. People put too much emphasis on being depressed. When you're depressed for so long, like when you're depressed for your entire life, it's really not that big of a deal. I just consume media. Like, as long as I can be relatively left alone and I can consume media, I'm depressed, but like I can deal with it. It's just a matter of trying to deal with it, trying to manage pain like I said in my video in January. Um right at the beginning of the year. Um like it may sound like I'm doing really bad all the time, but I'm really alright. And I always am. I'm always alright.
Because I like to keep my life an utter mess, I have been searching all over this room. All over this room. By the way, I'm trying to flatten this poster because I've had this poster for like 8 or 9 months, and it's been in this fucking thing. It's been wrapped around it. I don't know what that is. It was wrapped around it, so I'm trying to flatten it out by putting weight on it. But in the mail today, I got this PS2 to HDMI adapter so I could play the PS2 on my monitor. And I was really excited when I saw it, but the thing was is I had to tear apart this entire room to just find the PS2 because it's been in storage all this time because I haven't had a TV or a way to play it in order for me to have the incentive to take the thing out in the first place. So I done forgot which box it was in the first place, and I have to search through this entire. Did I just turn this monitor on by accident? Yes, I did. Oh, whatever. And so I have to search through this entire through this entire room in order to try and find it. I go through all these different boxes, and eventually I did find the PS2, and as a result of doing that, the room is just torn apart. There's just so much stuff everywhere. Not optimum mode recommended. I don't know what that means. We source. Potentially? Analog? Okay, let's turn the computer off. Maybe that's the problem. So I need to turn the computer. I've kept the computer on for so long. But yeah, my room is an absolute mess. There's just so much stuff here. Like when I had to plug this thing in, you go down here and there's just nothing but bottles and wires and all this other stuff. I got this defunct PC that I've kept around here for some ungodly reason. I'm just trying to get this goddamn PS2 to work on the monitor. HDMI. Not optimum mode. See, this is what it gives me. I don't understand what it means, not optimum mode. Source. And I bought this adapter in the hopes that it would work with the thing. Ah, fuck. Not optimum mode. Recommended mode is 19 by 20 by 1080. Do I just have to reset it? Maybe? No, it's not working. I don't know what's going on. No, maybe I have it on the analog mode or something still. Because it's not supposed to do this. Is there some kind of settings? There's not a button for settings on this monitor. You know, it's either, you know, you go source or you go return or power off. It just says, it's not the right mode. So potentially what I have to do is change something on the PS2 itself, but I don't know what that is that I have to change. I was reading Brave New World today, by the way. I don't know what it is that I have to change on here that would make it to where it works on this monitor. Maybe it'll work on this monitor, whereas on this one it doesn't. Because this one's smaller. That's just a guess. But I don't know. It's just not working. No, it says works with HD TV or HD monitor, hassle-free, supports all PS2 display modes. So what's it getting up to here if it's not working? It's the manual's like a few pages long. It doesn't have advice on this problem. Like, it's saying, okay, input connector, output. Yeah, like it's literally just not working. So I have no idea. I have no idea what to do. Oh, I was supposed to change the input first. I was supposed to change it to YBPR input. It's on RGB right now, I'm sure. Okay. So I have to change the input on the console itself. But I don't know how to do that if I can't see the thing. Do I have to take the thing out and then plug it in with AV cables in the other room to change the mode to take the thing back? Jesus Christ. This is... And I have to take it out knowing that I have this mess going on here. Well, this is just always how my room is. This is just always how I have things. Wow. But it's for the sake of playing Shin Megami Tensei. I have it in there somewhere. I want to play the rest of that game. So, it's worth it. Okay, let me lay down the line right here. Let me give you this terrible lag that I'm having right here. I'm using this old Elgato game capture that I've had for like, I don't know, 3 years? I think it's been about 3 years. Regardless, I'm trying to use it to play this game on this monitor through my computer because otherwise it's just not gonna work. My monitor is not seeming to cooperate with the HD adapter for the PS2, so I have to play it through this Elgato, and it's just going so slow. Like, I don't think I've ever experienced this much lag on one video game before. Now, I tried to play it on my mom's TV, and it worked fine with this exact same adapter, but as soon as I plug it into the Elgato to capture footage, it just goes so slow. This is going enormously slow. And this is what I have to deal with if I want to play my game. Is I have to sit here and let it go as slow as it possibly can. See, look at this. Okay, let me demonstrate. This is me moving the joystick. And that's him moving. This is so much lag. It's like I just want to sit here and play a video game, but the only way I can is with all this lag. No, I tried doing it without the Elgato capturing footage as well, and it didn't work any better. So maybe there's something in my settings that I'm doing wrong. I have the settings as low as they can possibly go. It shouldn't be lagging this much.
No, I think the reason I was thinking about killing myself was because I wanted to be somebody who I'm not. Or there were things that I did in the past that I was hanging on to the idea of changing like the experience of those memories. Because there are things I felt really, really guilty for that I did in the past. And I was thinking like maybe I could do one of those therapeutic exercises that you can get where they administer like a medicine, and then they do this like hypnotherapy stuff to force the memory into blank, like to force the memory out of your head. I don't remember exactly how it works, but I really wanted to do that. And I was having a lot of thoughts like that. Like if I could just zap these memories out of my head, it would be the coolest thing. Um, and then that was leading me into thinking, like, outside of just making the memories go away, it was leading me into thinking, like, I'm just never going to be a person who didn't do those things. Those things are always going to hang over me no matter what I do. And it was only after I had that really intense acid trip that I was talking about that I post the experience after the experience. I was met with the realization that I know now that those are memories that I can't change, you know? Like I know those are memories I'm gonna have to live with. It's really difficult to explain what that feels like because traditional wisdom would tell you that you have to live with the memory of stuff that happens, that you can't change the past. That's cliche. The cliche advice is that you have to change your actions, but you can't change what happened before them. You just have to be as better of a person as you can be, right? And the thing about cliches is that the reason they're characterized as cliches, kind of cynically, is because people hear that and they know it's true, but it doesn't work for them. The thing that makes a cliche real is experience. That there's emotions that you have to feel, an experience you have to be in that makes the cliche correct. That like makes the cliche match your experience has to inform your understanding of it. And that's why like a lot of the time when I was younger, I would get advice from people that were older than me, and I would think, yeah, you're basically right, but then I would do the thing they told me not to do anyway. And then after I did it, I thought, yeah, you're definitely right. You are definitely right. Um, and then I didn't do the thing again because the experience taught me otherwise. And that's cliches. And there was something about that experience that was so profoundly intense that made me think you just can't get rid of these memories, can you? Um, so I'm always going to be stuck with them, and I hope I can get to a point where I don't feel guilty anymore. But we're not there yet. Um, but it's just my cross to bear. It's something I have to deal with. So basically, what I'm saying here is, there's a brain. The brain's really complicated. I just I just have no energy. I just felt so bad. Um, really, it's been the last several weeks. It's been a really, really hard couple of weeks, and I don't even know why. I don't even know why. Yep. There were several days where I couldn't even be in this room, you know? I couldn't even be in this room. It just made me so sad just to be in my room that I was sleeping on the couch for several days because I just felt too sad when I came into my room. So, who knows?